Hi everyone, Dusty from Discovery Lab in Tulsa, Oklahoma here for Discover at Home, a series of experiments and activities that you can perform at home with a parent or caregiver. Our activity for today is nature weaving. We're going to be learning about patterns and geometry by using natural materials. The materials you'll need for this activity are some sticks that you found from outside. Try and find a few that have a Y or a fork on them for the first part of this. You'll also need some nippers or clippers, something to help you trim our sticks down to the proper size. You're going to want some scissors to cut our yarn with. Pick a couple colors of yarn. You could do some natural colors like this, or you can get more colorful and vibrant ones. And last but not least, this is optional, but if you'd like to make a needle out of an old paper clip, I'm going to show you how. Let's get started. You can see that I have trimmed my stick to have this W shape right here. If yours has only got 2 prongs, that's okay. Try and trim them so they're about 8 inches to a foot long, depending upon how long you want to make your weaving. The handle we can trim later. So, the first thing I'm going to do is create the warp of my weaving. The warp is the part of a weaving that stays still. I'm going to do that by grabbing my stick and going around these 2 prongs several times. You could use tape or glue for this first part, but I'm just going to tie it in a nice little knot because I think it looks a little bit neater and more natural. Tie it on nice and tight, and then you're just going to go around and around in sort of a figure 8 pattern all the way up your stick. You could do this tighter or looser if you want. I'm going to do mine pretty open or loose so that way you can really see what I'm doing. Try and make sure you keep it nice and snug. If you make it loose during this step, you might have a little bit more trouble during the next part. Alright, so I've got that guy pretty well done right there. You can see that I've got my horizontal warp going all the way up. I'm going to take and tie this end off nice and snug. Trim it off so I can get the tip right there. Get a nice little knot. All right, now let's go on to step 2. For step 2, if you'd like, you can create a needle. I'm going to do that by taking an old paper clip. To make a needle, I'm going to grab one end, fold it down, grab the other end until I end up with what looks like a hook or a candy cane shape. I'm going to take and close that hook up nice and snug, so that way I create a needle right here. Now, this might be helpful for younger ones or people who have trouble using their hands properly, but you can do it without this. You can just use your fingers, but I'm just doing this to show you, help you out just a little bit. It's time to create the weft or the woof of our weaving. This is going to be the part that goes up. I'm going to get a different color, so it's really going to show. And again, you could use something a lot more vibrant if you wanted to. I just like the way natural colors look. So I'm going to get my brown all threaded out. And then I'm going to take and thread my needle by just sticking it through right there. And if you'd like to, you can leave it dangling, but if you have younger kids, they might find it easier if you tie in the end so it doesn't get lost. Now, depending upon how big your weaving is, you're going to want to get about 6 or 7 feet. You can get more or less. I'm going to guesstimate that's going to be pretty close. The reason why is it's going to be a little hard to pull it all the way through if I have my whole skein out. If you have a smaller ball, you can probably use that, but since mine is so big, I'm just going to go ahead and make it smaller amount. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pattern of going over and under each one of my warp. So I'm going to take and thread my needle over, under, all the way up till I can pull it through my warp. Now, if your needle gets stuck, don't worry. Just give it a little tug and try not to pull anything out too far. Because I'm going over, under. I'm repeating this pattern over and over again. over, under, over, under. Then I can thread it through all the way. Pull until you've got just a little tail left, the very end of your string. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to tie him tight to the bottom warp that I've made, that horizontal or white string right there. Tie him down nice and tight so he doesn't move or slip through, otherwise my whole weaving might fall apart. Get it nice and snug. Now I'm going to go down doing over, under again. However, this time I'm going to alternate so that the warps that I went over, I'm going to go under this time. The ones that I went over, I'll go under. The ones that I went under, I'll go over. And we're going to grab my needle again. And we're going to go through. This time I'm going to go over where I went under, over where I went under where I went over, back and forth all the way through. Like I said, it's easy enough to do this with your fingers, but some little kids might find it easier if you give them the needle to help out with. If you don't have a paper clip, you could make one out of some pipe cleaner, out of an old twist tie, anything you got laying around, or if you happen to have a yarn needle laying around, that'd be perfect, since this is what we're substituting for. But you can see, as I start to go over and under, I'm going to start creating a little bit of a checkerboard pattern. So I thread this guy through, over, under, pulling him through all the way. All right, get this guy through. And now as I pull this through, what's going to happen is these guys are going to tighten up. And you can see I'm getting that alternating pattern going through there. Don't pull it too tight. If you pull it too tight, you'll see you'll start to get a little bit of sag right here, but you want it nice and snug so that way things don't slide or move too much. All right, so now it's time to repeat again. And we're going to just repeat this pattern over and over and over again until we've got our weaving completely finished. So, one of the things you might notice about our pattern, because we've got a triangular shape right here, is that it actually starts off tighter at the bottom and then widens out. That's just because of the shape that we chose. If you wanted to, you could choose a shape that's a bit more oblique or something that's a bit more acute, but just due to the shape that we've got, you can see how my pattern works. It's really tight right here, and a little bit looser right here, but if you look real closely, you'll see that this white seems to go in and out, alternating between each of these brown strands right here. This right here is an example of a really nice weave that we've got. If you take a look at some of your clothing, especially something that's got a bit more of an open knit, like a sweater or something, you might be able to notice this pattern in the stitches. If we alternate the patterns, maybe adding 2 over, 2 under, we can create even more designs. So, if you guys could think of a really fun pattern to try and attempt with your weaving, you could see what kind of designs you end up making with yours. Alright, for our next weaving, we're going to create a quadrilateral, or 4-sided shape. To do that, you're going to need 2 sticks that are fairly straight. Try and get them about the same size and length. Now, you're going to grab your yarn, and you're going to tie a knot around the middle. Now, I'm going to just kind of figure 8 this guy around a few times just to get it started. Don't worry if it's not perfect to begin with. We're just really trying to get it held tight. Tie your knot on nice and tight, so that way you end up what looks like a plus sign or a T. Now, if you take a look at the way these guys are, they should be fairly perpendicular, aka they're going to have a corner that's 90 degrees or straight like this right here. If you make it a little off, like an X, that's okay. Your quadrilateral is just going to be a little bit different. This is going to end up making a square or a diamond pattern, depending on how I do it. But if you do it like this, you might end up with a slightly different one. But it's still going to be a quadrilateral. Grab your yarn and wrap it around the first stick. I've gone over this one, then I'm going to go over to the second one. I'm going to wrap in the same way, going under the stick, over, and then back down. I'm going to repeat this on every single stick, going under, over, and around. under, over, and around. Just repeating this pattern over and over again. You'll find as you do it more and more, it'll actually bind or hold the sticks even better. Now, a fun thing about this, as I said, the geometry of it, if you look real closely, you'll see that we've actually got 4 triangles. Any quadrilateral can be decomposed or broken down into triangles. Ours is going to be broken down into 4. I'm only using 1 color of yarn right here, but if you guys wanted to switch it up by using 2 or 3 colors, or maybe even using some yarn that changes colors all the way through, you'll end up with some really cool patterns. You could use several different colors, making them brighter or darker. It's up to you guys and your imagination. Now you guys can see as I'm creating this diamond pattern right here on the side. So I keep going and going, it's going to get wider and wider and wider. And you could do this for quite some time, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause right there. I think you guys can kind of get the idea of it. You can see I've got a little eye shape in the middle, and then I have this fun diamond or quadrilateral shape. 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And again, look at the triangles I've divided it into. So I'm going to finish this later, and we're going to finish up. That's going to do it for our weaving activity. Hopefully you guys have had fun creating some patterns with some natural materials. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and I'll see you all next time.